when you were talking about the telepathy and that sort of thing, are these skills that you can develop, or is it either you have it or you don't? Or it's a one-time thing where it happens one time and it never happens again?
So I'm not an expert, and I don't think there's an answer to that. From my experience, it seems like psychic phenomenon, specifically telepathy or entanglement, is not something that just happens. It's sometimes not under our conscious control. So it's not like I could flip a switch and read your mind. From my experience with things, these telepathy, these entanglement things that I talk about usually happen when people are in some sort of distress. They usually happen when there's some sort of something happening in the environment. That doesn't necessarily mean that people don't have the ability to do that. Like psychics could help you or find things for you. But I think that it's very difficult and it's very rare from my experience to have someone who can just turn it on. There are periods of it. I've seen some research papers and some experiments with people who score really, really high on these sort of psi tests, and they seem to have these gifts. There was one research experiment where they put these sort of like magnetic helmets on people, and it would measure their EEGs and things like that. And they created like almost like a magnetic field around their head. And what they found was, so if I'm sitting across from Tim here, and I'm a psychic and I'm reading Tim's mind, they found that when I had hits or when I was right, the EEG synchronized. So our brain waves synchronized, right? So when hits happen, something happens where our brains synchronize and we're able to communicate with each other. They were able to find out some sort of magnetic field pattern that increased the likelihood of this happening. So it can happen theoretically, right? Theoretically, it can happen. But how those things get linked and how we sort of read people's minds, it doesn't seem like we could flip a switch. There seems to be something that has to happen between me and Tim where we connect and we synchronize, and then information is passed. So I have a cell phone in front of me, but the only way I could talk to you, Tim, is if I dial your number. Mm-hmm. Then we could talk to each other. I just can't pull up the phone and talk to Tim. There has to be some way to connect. And I think that's the elusive part that really no one has figured out since humankind, really. How do you connect like that? Some people claim to have the ability to do it. There's some research that says it has to do with manipulating magnetic fields around your head, and then synchronization can happen. But we haven't really figured that out consistently.
On a humorous note, I was watching, it had been a long time since I'd seen it, but I was watching the beginning of Ghostbusters where Bill Murray was testing those kids for ESP, and he had the cards. He had a real attractive young woman in there, and then a young guy, and he had a shock device hooked up to him. Yeah, and the guy, even when he got it right, he was shocking him. And the girl should say, is it a triangle? And it would be an octagon or something. He goes, you've gotten like 10 in a row, and she was missing every one of them. But just for ESPA, that was hilarious.
Yeah, those are actually called Zener cards. They used those in the 50s and 60s to test ESP. If you're ever interested in parapsychology, Ghostbusters 1 and 2 has a lot of sort of references to it. That's one of them.
Interesting.
Because Dan Aykroyd, who wrote it, was fascinated with parapsychology. So he has a lot of those things in there. And obviously three of the Ghostbusters are parapsychologists.